Hey, happy Nelson Mandela Day, ladies and gentlemen, on this Friday, the 18th of July. So I'm not entirely sure, and the reason I'm making this video is I thought, hey, this is a big day. We should celebrate. I just don't know what. What exactly do we as South Africans celebrate? Failing state, corruption, police ministers being crime bosses, criminal cartels infecting the police, a failing police service, failing infrastructure, failing medicine and medical care, failing economy, failing politicians, failing ANC, failing opposition parties, failing GNU. Well, we have the Springboks. We can celebrate the Springboks. They're pretty good, right? They're doing a good job. The cricket guys, they did a good job as well. What else? The problem is, I don't know exactly what we're celebrating. The ANC is making a big deal of this day, how this was the day that South Africans finally got their freedom. I'm just not sure freedom from what? Freedom from apartheid? Okay, cool. But people in South Africa went from being free from apartheid to now being slaves of the government. We have over 26 million people in this country on government grants. We have a further 3 million people paid by the government. So over 30 million people in this country are being paid by the government, slaves of this government. We have 1,000 companies paying about 70% of the entire corporate tax bill of this country. The entire budget of this nation is made up 40% of it by personal income tax. In every other nation, South Africa would be in a state of national disaster. Nothing would be going well. People would be out in the streets protesting. We are 3 meals away from absolute anarchy in this nation. And should anarchy occur, our police service cannot deal with it. Our military is completely depleted and incapable of dealing with it. We are friends with some of the worst nations in the world. We're about to piss off the biggest nation in the world. What exactly are we celebrating? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. Fundamentally, a lot of you, or some of you at least, took issue with my stance in the previous video where I spoke about the DA, thinking that I somehow think the DA is just as terrible or bad as the ANC. I need to clarify some of my thoughts there. I don't think the DA is just as bad as the ANC. I do think that should the DA come into power, they'll arguably be a better government than the ANC. But since the ANC is probably one of the worst governments ever, especially under the most useless leader ever, Cyril Ramaphosa, that's not difficult, right? Effectively, here's the next party that runs this country. If they want to be better than the ANC, here's what they do. They get into power, they steal nothing, and they do nothing. Like literally just do nothing. And that will be a marked improvement on the ANC. So the bar isn't super high. My problem with the DA isn't that they're not great administrators. They are. I live in the Western Cape. I live in Cape Town. And I can tell you, Cape Town is an amazing city. It's clean, it's nice, things get taken care of, although not always fast. The sewer system where I live is completely wrecked, and they don't seem to be doing anything to actually fix that. And it's been like that for about 3 years now, ever since I moved here. But they're still miles and leagues better than anything the ANC has ever done, especially since I lived under ANC rule for pretty much all of my life, right? So I know that the DA is better in that regard. My big problem with the DA, when we're going to talk problems, is I don't trust the DA to have their allegiances set to South Africa. They appear to be sort of in alliance with the global elite, the WEF. They appear to have a lot of almost similar interests and similar directions to which they want to take the country in. And in my opinion, that will be terrible for ordinary South Africans because the WEF and the global elitists, they're not for the ordinary man on the street. They're not for the middle class. In fact, if you listen to what Klaus Schwab and the muckers over at the WEF has to say, their dream is stakeholder capitalism, which effectively means you have rulers and they rule everyone else. So I'm not convinced that the DA is just a good party. That doesn't mean that they're not better than the ANC. Of course they are. Anyone who at this point would be better, except for the EFF and the MK. They would not be better. But anyone at this point, aside from those three, would be better than the ANC. It's just that I'm not convinced that they're a good party. And fundamentally, I can't pretend like they are, right? And I can't pretend like I think they are. I think our country is in serious trouble. I think even without the tariffs coming into effect, our country is staring down the barrel of a loaded gun, and we seem to have our finger on the trigger, and the ANC seems hell bent on pulling it. Don't know why, but for some reason, well, actually, I think I do know. And we're going to get into a little bit of conspiracy here, but hey, since this is my video, I'll do that. Um, I think personally, the ANC, like almost every other communist state, have identified what was their biggest blunder post 1994, and that was the education of the masses, as well as trying to lift people out of poverty. Right now, almost all of the ANC support comes from uneducated and very poor people, right? So if they're uneducated and very poor, they vote for the ANC. Why? Because it just makes sense. The ANC is the one giving them grants. And most poor people, if they live off of government grants, their idea immediately with voting for someone else is that that someone else might take away the grant. And a lot of people, about 26 million people in South Africa, if you were to remove that grant, they'd be screwed. They would not be able to survive because there's no jobs for them to take, right? And so that's how the ANC remains in power. And I believe under Cyril Ramaphosa, it's the only thing that makes sense because Cyril Ramaphosa and his friends seem to make every single bad decision to ruin the economy of South Africa a little bit faster. And all I can imagine is that their idea now is push as many people into poverty as you can, because that's how we get our votes back. If we can tell people, guys, look at what the GNU did. Look at how terrible the economy did. Look at how our country fell apart under the GNU. The only way to stop this is to vote for us again. I think that's exactly what they're doing. And before you think, well, dude, they won't be that stupid, never underestimate the stupidity of a communist. Idi Amin in Uganda literally thought that the problem was cities. So he chased everyone out of the cities. And then that didn't fix equality. So then he killed all the smart people. The problem was he couldn't figure out who the smart people were. So he just killed everyone that wore glasses. That's how that works, right? Communists like quick and easy answers, and I believe that's exactly what the ANC wants to do. So, with that said, with the backdrop of this, sending you guys into the weekend, happy Nelson Mandela Day, a day where most South Africans have literally nothing to celebrate because what even is the point? Let me know in the comment section down below what you celebrate on this beautiful Nelson Mandela Day. Love to read it. As always, hit the like if you liked it, just if you didn't. And I'll see all of you in the next one. Peace.